स्वामिन् नमस्ते नतलोकबन्धो कारुण्यसिन्धो पतितं भवाब्धौ मामुद्धरात्मीय कटाक्षदृष्ट्या ऋज्व्यातिकारुण्य सुधाभिवृष्ट्या स्वामिन् नमस्ते स्वामिन् नमस्ते स्वामिन् नमस्ते स्वामिन् नमस्ते। स्वाराज्य साम्राज्य विभूतिरेषा भवत्कृपा श्रीमहिमप्रसादात् प्राप्ता मया श्रीगुरवे महात्मने नमो नमस्तेस्तु पुनर्नमोस्तु नमो नमस्तेस्तु पुनर्नमोस्तु नमो नमस्तेस्तु पुनर्नमोस्तु। जय गुरु जय गुरु जय गुरु जय गुरु जय गुरु जय गुरु। I have been doing this series of Prabhat Rishmi talks, and from the volume 1 I have taken a few chapters. I came to this chapter, Prabhat Rishmi 13 of volume 1, and started it. And after the first session, that very same night, I fractured my foot. So naturally, after that, I had to do premieres. The premieres were streamed, and as all of you know, following that, there was this Purnashram inauguration, the Dhyana Yajna in Delhi, and then we have returned. And after returning from Delhi, I have started taking the new Bengali book which we brought out on the occasion of the inauguration of Purnashram. And I am taking the letters which Baba Gangadhara Paramhamsa wrote to Nutun Swamiji as well as me. But for other times when we will be traveling, premieres are necessary, and I thought that I will record again Prabhat Rishmi to be used for such premieres. Because when the Prabhat Rishmi sessions I started, many felt very much benefited by them. As such, I always like to go through these Prabhat Rishmi books. We have got 3 books printed, but there are, I think, hundreds and hundreds of Prabhat Rishmi talks by Pujya Swamiji. After every day Pushpa Samarpanam, he has been talking for so many years. Only few have been published in the form of 3 volumes. And each is a nectar. Each is a help for any seeker to progress in this path of sadhana. Especially this Prabhat Rishmi, Volume 1, 2, I feel that it's a very direct instruction from the Guru. Not only these, of course, all the Prabhat Rashmis are very, very good. So, what happened is that although I got some live talk days in between the Satram and the Purnashram Udbodhan, because of the fracture, I couldn't. I had just started one chapter and it was not over. So I thought that I'll speak again on that and pre-record them so that they are there in continuity and one can listen to them. Whatever the listeners may be feeling, I myself feel very enriched, very sublimated, very purified when I read these Prabhata Rashmis. Each word is a nectar which falls out from the mouth of a realized master. And these are to be taken in, assimilated. The words should be written in our hearts in golden words. And very often we should look into them and try to be what the message is for us. In this 13th chapter of volume 1, the name of the chapter is Detachment, the Only Way to Live Well. I looked back into the YouTube and found that this is the 218th episode of the live talk of the Global Gita online talks, 218th one. In that talk, I have referred to the previous chapters which I have taken, where I have told what Swamiji is imparting to us, hammering into us only one knowledge, that I am the soul and I am not the body. And he says that although there is plurality, plurality never gets destroyed, but we should know that the plurality gets soaked in oneness. Beneath all the plurality is the constant substratum, which is that oneness, which we have to feel, which we have to become, and which we should, being in that knowledge, remaining connected to that knowledge, we should live in this world. I think all that we have done and read in the Prabhat Rashmis, and even now when Swamiji speaks in Prabhat Rashmi, this is the only essence of all that he talks. And these are the essence of the Shastras, that there is only one consciousness. And all that we do is an extension of the self. Our existence is an extension of the self. The world is an extension of the self. We are created from that consciousness, which if we call God, all the organs, our mind, buddhi, everything, our views, our thoughts, everything that we have, which we feel as our own identity, is an extension of that self which is changeless, which is imperishable. However, we always feel this changeful body to be the I, which is not true. This is the one knowledge, the truth that all our scriptures keep on telling us, and in the Prabhat Rashmi also, Swamiji keeps on telling us. So this 13th chapter, the Heading is detachment, the only way to live well. This is also in the background of Guru Purnima and retreat, where many devotees have come, and the hall is full with devotees waiting to offer their pranams, offering flower petals at the holy feet of Pujya Swamiji. Just imagine the scene. We start with chanting the Namavali, Om Namah Sadashivaya, Om Namo Narayanaya. And Swamiji comes and takes his seat. People queue up, and one by one they take flowers from me. I hand them over. The flowers have been plucked from the garden, cleaned very well, never hurting the flower petals. In a very soft manner they are handled, and each devotee goes and offers pranam at the holy feet of Swamiji. After that, Swamiji speaks. So that particular day, the date is 25th July 1997. Long back. So, that day, somebody said, Swamiji, we have been listening to you for so many years. You have always inspired us to live a better life in the world. Inspired in which manner? How a better life comes? When we understand our real identity. We generally are full of fear, full of anxiety, full of dukkha. Similarly, we have sukha also. But we are not peaceful. We are not contented. We are not satisfied. Constantly there in the mind is a craving, a desire to have something more, something which will make us fulfilled. And what does the masters teach us? They teach us how to get rid of these desires, possessiveness and ego, so that the life becomes beautiful, better. So our devotee is saying that, Swamiji, we have been listening to you and you are teaching us how to live a better world. For many years I have been hearing. Your words and messages have always given us strength to steer through many difficult situations in the family as well as in the professional life. But now we feel that you are mostly talking about vairagya and leaving the worldly life. That way the talks perhaps become a little alienated from the needs of ordinary people like us who are not yet prepared to renounce. Swamiji, we would like to hear from you the truth about this change of emphasis. You must tell us openly, without any sugarcoating, what we are supposed to do. Swamiji took up the point during today's Prabhata Rashmi. That is, the devotee said that generally you tell us how to make the life beautiful, better, and because of your talks, we have got strength to face any situation in life as well as in professional life also. But nowadays, we feel that you are talking too much about vairagya, renouncing, so that we are not very much comfortable about, because we are not ready for renouncing. So please tell us what we should do. So this is the question. And Swamiji then gives a reply. Reply means he talks that day. And what does he talk about? Let us see. How he deals with this question in the query in the mind of the devotee, who feels that whatever Swamiji says is now a little different from what he was saying. Actually speaking, there is no difference. Swamiji says that to be peaceful in the life, to be restful, to feel contented, to be fulfilled, one must get rid of desires, possessiveness and ego. Actually, that is Vairagya. Vairagya doesn't mean that you have to leave. Even if you leave and you go to a hill or a cave or on the riverside, remain alone, spend your days in trying to do meditation, leaving everything, but your mind is cluttered still with worldliness, possessiveness, desire, ego, then that is not Vairagya. Vairagya is when you don't have this. Even a sannyasin who has left everything will have a desire. If he has a desire to become reputed, to be known by everybody, to have a great following, to have a big ashram, then that is a desire. That doesn't make him fulfilled. That is not Vairagya. Vairagya is when you feel, I have nothing, I want nothing, and I am nothing. That is Vairagya. So, Swamiji now talks about it. And let us see. First he chants this one line from the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. That is from the Vishwarupa Darshana. He says, Mat karma krit, mat paramo, mat bhakta sangha varjitaha. 11.55. And the second line, which is not written here, Nirvairas sarva bhuteshu yas samameti pandava. So, mat karma krit, mat paramo, mat bhakta sangha varjitaha. Swamiji is talking, throughout the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Sri Krishna is only explaining, re-explaining, confirming, reconfirming, strengthening, re-strengthening the central idea that you are the soul and you have no birth or death. Swamiji is talking about what Sri Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita. I think for years and years and years, Swamiji is also doing the same thing. What is he doing? He is explaining, re-explaining, confirming, reconfirming, strengthening, re-strengthening. What? The central idea that you are not the body, you are the soul. And the soul has no birth, no death. It is taintless, it is imperishable, it is eternal. It cannot be diminished. It cannot be moved. It is atala, achala, sanatana, avyaya. All these characteristics are the soul's, and your real identity is that. You feel that your mind goes up and down. You feel you are happy or unhappy. You feel a profit and a loss. You feel praised or abused. We feel it in the mind because the mind is changeful, the body is changeful, the buddhi is changeful. That is why unless we know our real identity, which is changeless, we will be suffering because we get identified mistakenly with the changeful body. And we miss our real identity. Our real identity, which is changeless, we don't identify with that. We don't even look at that. And those who have taken to the spirituality, they are actually blessed ones, that they are constantly listening to this fact, compared to many others who do not even know about it. But even having that knowledge, one doesn't pursue to remain in the lap of that knowledge that I am the soul, I cannot be changed. I have no movement. I have no ups and downs. I am one and ever free. Then Swamiji says, this is the central idea that he says. Swamiji says, you don't have to become the soul. You are the soul. You don't have to become the soul. You are the soul. That is the real identity, that you are the soul is a fact. You are so. But constantly we are forgetting that. You will have to only know it. If you are the soul and the soul does not have birth or death, then how can death become a cause of fear for you? If you are not born and you have no death, then what about the life which comes in between birth and death? He says that, see, ultimately the fear, everybody is laden with fear. Suppose we want something very badly, and always we are wanting. Even if we get it, even if we are blessed to have it, then there is a fear that we will lose it. All our relationships, all our acquirements, everything, acquisitions, everything becomes over. We lose it. Even the body, strength and everything, as the body grows, it changes, and we lose our strength. And in old age, we are dependent on people. So where is this permanence? And the most fearful thing for everybody is death. Death of one's own body and death of the near and dear ones. Now, we cannot even think that one day we will not be in this earth. We know the fact, we are seeing it every day, but it is very, very difficult to think of a situation when I am not there. But it will happen, the body will fall. But the soul, if you are knowing that you are the soul has no birth, no death. If you live in that knowledge, the soul which has no birth, no death, in between is a life. Swamiji is saying, what about that life? You have to take it with a measure of indifference. So if you are connected to this knowledge, you do not fall from that knowledge. You remain in the lap of that knowledge, that there is no change in me, I have no death, no birth. Then the life in between, you should be indifferent. Let anything come. Let anything come. Nothing affects me, the soul. This should be the thought. Do not give anything in life undue importance. My dear children, this very, very important word. Very, very important word. What? Do not give anything in life undue importance. We give undue importance to everything. Most of the people, they are not satisfied with whatever they have. They give undue importance to what they do not have, and constantly suffer because of the lack. It may be anything. A worldly person will have that, a spiritual person will have that. So this undue importance, not giving undue importance to anything in life, is absolutely necessary. Do not give anything in life undue importance, by virtue of which you get agitated, perplexed and subdued. If we give undue importance to anything, we become agitated, afflicted. Because that alone remains in the mind, that I did not get this, or I did not become that, or I did not get it. Why is it that others are having and I am not having? Will my life be always like this? Will my life be such that whatever I wanted, I will not be able to live in that manner? If we keep on thinking like this, then our focus is on the life situations and not the soul. So we become afflicted. So Swamiji says that if you give undue importance, you will be agitated, perplexed and subdued. The events of life are not to subdue you. On the other hand, you have to assimilate them, outlive them, and get enriched by them. Let any event take place. The attitude should be, my dear children, why are we listening to these Prabhat Rashmis? What are these Prabhat Rashmis? Again and again I remind you. These are the nectars from the mouth of a realized master. And how these nectars have come, how he is able to talk, because he has experienced them. He is in the knowledge of the self. And that is why these realized people, they are always wanting to do good to the people. They understand people are suffering. They understand people have lacks, insufficiencies, and they understand that they are not fulfilled. They feel sorry for them. That whereas if one looks into oneself, remains in the knowledge that I am the self, nothing can happen to me. Let anything come and go, like the wave comes and goes in a river. Nothing will touch me. If that knowledge, one can be one with it, one with the knowledge, constantly connected to the knowledge, then one will be happy. So that is why they keep on talking the same thing over and over again. In all the Shastras you will find the same thing. In many ways they are saying, so that we can remember, we can listen to it many times, and only when we listen many times we remember. If we listen once, if we read once, it doesn't go deep into us. So he says that on the other hand, you have to assimilate the events of life, outlive them. Suppose something we did not expect, did not want, has come. What can be done? We have to assimilate it, outlive it, and get enriched by them. Get enriched by them. I remember that, long back in the year 1986. This is a Prabhat Rashmi of 1997. I'm talking about even 10 years before. I had come to the ashram as a visitor. That time I was in the household. And those days Swamiji used to use a typewriter to type replies to letters, to type the articles to be published in Vichar Setu and any other thing. And just because I am remembering, the typewriter was an orange color small typewriter. When I first saw it, I thought, oh, Swamiji uses an orange typewriter. Maybe some devotee had given him. So, Swamiji used to, whenever he would write something, like a child, he would like to read it out to somebody, because he wants to tell the knowledge. So, at that time, I was there. One or two people were there. So Swamiji called all of us and he started reading the letter. It was a very long letter, 9 pages. And then the letter was so nice. I don't remember what the person had written, though Swamiji showed that letter also. And I don't remember all that Swamiji had written. But I remember the impact the letter had on me, especially a paragraph in which he had written at one point that tell this whole world that I am not going to be subdued by you. Let any event come into my life, I will not be subdued. And I tell you, O world, I will be only enriched and enlightened by the events that you bring to me. Something like this. So, I requested Swamiji that before, can I copy this? So the letter was posted. Those days it used to be post, not emails like this that we do these days. Swamiji always had a habit of keeping a copy. So there will be a carbon copy of the letter. So when I requested, Swamiji gave me the carbon copy. And I always had a habit of writing, even if I read books which had very good paras, which will elevate the mind, enrich the mind. In my diaries, I would write them. So this whole letter, it was so beautiful that I had written it down in a notebook. And these sentences, the one that I just now mentioned, how many times I have read, how many times I have remembered that this is what should be the attitude in life. That whatever comes, we should make it into an occasion to become enlightened and enriched. And not think and cry, oh, why this is happening to me? Why I am in this situation? Then only the spirituality works. Then only the spirituality is our friend and companion. Otherwise it remains as a knowledge, alien from us. Spirituality becomes an occupation for us, just like we do many other things. Giving some time to spiritual thoughts or spiritual reading or spiritual meditation, it's an occupation. It doesn't become one with us. So, this is very, very important, that on the other hand, any event which comes in life, you have to assimilate them, outlive them, and get enriched by them. While living in this world, we may have to face any situation, and there is a scope for the mind to produce practically every kind of response or reaction. Any event which comes, we can have any reaction. We become happy, we become too much elated, we become excited. And on the other hand, we may become agitated, disturbed, afflicted, fearful, anxious. We may feel like flying in the sky. So any kind of reaction, good and bad, the mind can produce. The mind which produces these reactions also has the inherent capacity to live through and outlive them. Each line has to be read at least 100 times. 100 times. See what a wealth this sentence is. The mind which produces these reactions also has the inherent capacity to live through and outlive them. The mind is making many reactions, but mind also has the potential to outlive them, to be indifferent to them, indifferent to sukha and dukkha. That is why these slokas are there. Na khidyate no vishayaih pramodate, na sajjate napi virajyate cha, swasmin sada kridati nandati swayam, nirantarananda rasena triptaha. It is from Viveka Chudamani. I think I have recited it many, many times. Na khidyate no vishayaih pramodate. One does not, khidyate means one becoming affected, sorrowful. Vishayaihi, by objects or any incident or any event or by people, one does not become sorrowful. And na pramodate, also does not become elated. But we are always we are shuffling between the two. Either we become happy or we become unhappy. If somebody praises us, we are very happy, very elated. If somebody says something which we do not like, then we are absolutely down. Either we will blame the person, or we will cry, or we will feel why it is not a truth. So these reactions will come up in the mind, vigorously sometimes. But what it says, this shloka, na kidyate, no vishayaiv pramodate, also na sajjate. That is, you should not cling to anything. What you like, you cling. That is, you cling to, say this example, we all like to be praised, or we all like to hear that you are a good person. Don't cling to that idea. Na sajjate, na virajyate cha. Also, do not be indifferent to it. If somebody praises you, it's okay. If somebody did not praise you, that's also okay. But we cling to what we like, and we dislike what we don't like. So this shloka is saying your mind should be such. Mind has the potential not to be sorrowful when sorrowful events are there, not to be elated when delightful events are there, not to cling to what we like, not to be indifferent when something happens. Don't be indifferent. How can you be like that? If you go inside you, if you remain in that knowledge, swasmin sada kridati nandati swayam. If in your own insight, where there is a fountain of joy, which is beyond the sukha and dukkha, if you sport in that, kridati, nandati, rejoice in that, swasmin sada. Swasmin means inside yourself. Sada means always. Kridati, it is you sport in that. Nandati, rejoice in that. Swayam, yourself. Then nirantara anandarasena triptaha. If you do that, then what will happen? Nirantara. Nirantara means unbrokenly, ceaselessly. Anandarasena. There will be anandarasa filling you, blissfulness. And when blissfulness is there, one will become contented. Triptaha. Triptaha. Instead of that, what we do? Mind brings lot of reactions. And we keep on allowing them to whirl around in the mind. We indulge in those reactions. Instead of that, if we dip inside ourselves, where there is a real identity, the real I, and get connected to our real identity, the soul, rejoice in that, and play in that, sport in that, we will get the nirantara anandarasa, the rasa, the nectarine delight we will be able to enjoy, the blissfulness we will be able to experience, which will make us triptaha, contented. So, the mind which produces these reactions also has the inherent capacity to live through and outlive them. The mind which was bringing about so much of reactions, that is, hearing something through the senses have brought about something. The mind becomes agitated. Mind indulgence in them. The same mind can go inside and can drink the nectar of delight, blissfulness, and become completely contented. This is a lesson that people do not understand, and also refuse to remember. Refuse to remember. How many times Swamiji would have told us this? We have heard it. When Swamiji speaks or we hear him constantly, we feel elevated, we feel so uplifted. We even experience the bliss, but we refuse to remember it. What we remember? We remember our petty desires. We remember what will give us immediate pleasure. We will remember what we prefer. Preferences will take place, will become the primary thing in the mind, and we will forget to dip into ourselves. This is a lesson that people do not understand and also refuse to remember. If the mind creates an emotion or agitation, it can as well live through and outlive it. Then, what is there to be so much upset about? In all the spiritual gospels, when they are properly understood, there is constantly a message of invincibility. Invincibility. Our body may not be invincible against the factors outside, but our mind is, and much more so is the soul by its very nature. The soul is invincible. Like in Bhagavad Gita, it says that the soul is avinashi. It cannot be, it is imperishable. The soul is that which cannot be cut. Achedyoyam, adahyoyam. It cannot be burnt up. Akledyo shoshya evacha. That is, it cannot be moistened. It cannot be dried up. It cannot be tainted. Nityaha sarvagata sthanuhu. It is nityaha. And it is all pervading. Sarvagataha sthanuhu. It is immovable. Achaloyam. It cannot move. Sanatanaha. This is the definition of the self. The deha, the body alone is vinashi. That alone is perishable. The body, along with the senses, along with the mind, buddhi, ego, etc., is perishable. The soul is not. So the soul is invincible, whereas the body is not so. So, the more you understand that this is so, the more you will feel that you too are invincible. The more we keep on introspecting, that is why in spirituality, it is always said that we must have viveka. We must apply our mind and intelligence to think and to do vichara. That is, we introspect and try to understand. We just do not go mechanically by rituals. Many people, when they come for Diksha, they ask Swamiji, Swamiji, now that we have taken Diksha, are we to chant these shlokas? All these days I have been chanting, doing puja in the morning. Yes, you can do that. But see to it that you just do not mechanically chant them. See to it that now that you are going forward in your spiritual path, you have time to think with your buddhi. Whatever you chant, you must think about it, what you are chanting. It should not be a ritual that every day I chant these shlokas because it is in our prayers. Never thinking what the meanings are. Like I told you a shloka, it has a deep meaning, but I can chant that shloka just like that without even thinking something else. So, even if a prayer, if you have 2-3 shlokas chanting in the prayer, think about it. Think about it. What is being told? What is being told? If it is telling about the soul, that here, say we are reading this book, I think I'm just reading, but every line has to be thought, read, And one must think, keep quiet and think that Swamiji is saying that the body is perishable, whereas the soul is invincible. He's saying that our body may not be invincible against the factors outside. Whatever is the outside factors, the body is not invincible. Body can be affected. Many things can happen to the body, can happen to the mind, can happen to the buddhi. And it will happen because of the factors outside. With time, with events, or many other things. But the soul inside is invincible. So we read this, and then Swamiji writes, the more you understand that it is so, the more you will feel that you too are invincible, because you are the soul. So it is just not reading. You read one line and meditate on that. Introspect, feel it, that my real identity is invincible. Nothing can affect me. Nothing can affect me. Let anything happen outside. I will not be affected. I will not be affected. And thinking that, my dear children, just thinking that, I think we can just go deep inside us and sit in the lap of the Atma and become one with it, one with it. So much of blissfulness. Swasmin sada kridati nandati swayam nirantarananda rasena triptaha. If one tries to read like this, I think within few lines one will have deep absorption. And when one wakes up, one will find the whole world just self and self everywhere. All his behavior, all his thought, all his activities will be around that knowledge and nothing else. By the very fact of your being, this invincibility is there in you. If you don't understand it, you are a fool, ignorant, deluded. If you don't understand it, you are a fool, ignorant, and deluded. My dear children, what is this meaning of understanding? Yes, many will say, yes, I have understood. My real identity is this, that I am the soul, I am changeless, I am imperishable, I am eternal. I have understood. By this understanding, what are you doing? Are you remaining in this understanding, or are you shifting away while you are in activity? Understanding means, by introspection, become that, become that. And unless you do that, you are a fool, ignorant, and deluded. So, there is no message of spirituality which makes a man timid or makes him feel subdued. Let the family desert you. Let the whole world turn against you. Let poverty, death, and disease assail you. As the adversities come, they will also subside, as there is a calm after each storm. Swamiji says, so the message of spirituality makes a man feel that he cannot be subdued. He is invincible because he is the soul. Let the family desert you. Let the whole world turn against you. Let everybody abuse you. Let everybody comment upon you. Nobody gives you honor. Let anything happen. Let poverty, death, and disease assail you. As the adversities come, they will also subside, as there is a calm after each storm. Like if there is a storm, the storm comes, there will be big lightning, thunder, heavy rains, and we all are shaken up. Many trees may fall, many things may be destroyed. Old houses will sometimes fall during such heavy storms and rains. But afterwards, the sun shines again and everything is calm. So, let everything be opposite to what you are wanting. But after each storm, there will be a calm. All these will pass off. The sequence of events in life will not be as you want them to be. Very, very important sentence. The sequence of events in life will not be as you want them to be. We plan that after this, we'll do like this. But it may not be so. It may be so also. But we should be prepared and we should have the knowledge that as I have planned, it may not be so. It is designed by nature with a view to enrich and sublimate you. But whatever happens, nature is designing everything for each and every creature, each and every creation. And for human beings, because Creator has given us mind and intelligence, for us, every situation is designed to make us sublimated, to make us enriched and enlightened. We have to make it. We cannot be simply crying, saying that, why this is so, why this is so. So, my dear seekers and children, there is no message in spirituality which ever tells you to escape, to run away from any situation. What was the question? A devotee in that retreat session told Swamiji that, Swamiji, all this time I have been listening to you for a long time. You have been telling such things which strengthens our mind, and we are able to handle our professional life, our domestic life, our worldly life, and steer through it. But nowadays you are talking about vairagya, indifference. So we are not able to understand because we are not ready for leaving everything and going away. So Swamiji is saying, there is no message in spirituality which ever tells you to escape, to run away, run from any situation. So Swamiji's reply is that what I am saying is not for running away. This devotee said that I am not ready to renounce and go away from the worldly life. Swamiji says, no message of spirituality tells you to run away, to escape. That is not spirituality. That is not the message of spirituality. But the message of spirituality will not become full unless it drives home well the fact that you are not born here to become attached to anything. What a beautiful sentence. I sometimes feel how clear these sentences are. How clear. What is he saying? That, my dear devotee, you have raised this question. I am not telling you to run away. No message in spirituality tells us to run away and escape. It tells us to face, remain afloat, remaining in the situation to be enriched and enlightened and be sublime. Because the message of spirituality will not become full unless it drives home well. So, the messages we are listening to, that listening will not become full unless it is driven very well. The fact that you are not born here to become attached to anything. It is not Nobody is talking about running away or renouncing. What is being told is that you should not be attached to anything. Don't be possessive. Don't have clinging. Don't be desireful. Don't have ego. The message of spirituality is only that, and that is Vairagya. If you feel that Vairagya, what Swamiji is saying, is to go away, no, it is not. It is only to drive home the fact that one should not be clinging to anything. That is the spiritual message. No clinging. That is why Swamiji says many times, I am nothing, I have nothing, and I want nothing. And this is not a sentence. He feels it, he demonstrates it, he is personified this sentence. And he wants all of us to be like that. Don't want anything. Don't want. That is Vairagya. That is Vairagya. You live in the midst of everything, but in the mind you know that nothing belongs to me. And nothing belongs to us. How can we say that anything belongs to us? My body, I feel that it's my body. Who has made it? I have not made it. I have not given the color of my skin. I have not given the buddhi that I have. It's all a creator's design. And even the capability, the intelligence, how much one can do, how much one can achieve, everything is designed. Nothing belongs to me. All the things that we feel, even the family members, we feel they are ours. Have we made them? Have we created them? If we wish, can we make one more family member get born in our family? So many couples, they don't have children. Can they wish and get a child? Make them, create them? No. The Creator has designed not to give them any child. So they don't have children. The Creator wishes to give some children to some people. The Creator wishes, and it's His design. Sometimes the children will be all settled. Sometimes some will be settled, some will not be settled. Some will die in between. Just like the trees, the fruit trees, the flower trees, we are also His creation. But since we have intelligence, we feel everything that we do, I am doing. And we are such a fool, we don't understand that actually I am neither a doer, not an enjoyer. We are just a witness to what is being done by this body. That real identity that I am, it is just witnessing from birth to the death what the body has been doing, what the mind has been thinking, what the buddhi has been deciding. Just watch it, watch it, watch it. I am that. I am the witness. Everything is a witness. I am that witness. The world, including my body, mind, intelligence complex, is the witnessed, and I am the witness. That I is the real identity, the soul. So, you are not born here to become attached to anything. What is meant by attachment? Now the question comes, what is meant by attachment? It is self-quoted bondage. What a beautiful explanation. Self-quoted bondage. We ourselves give bondage to us by wanting a particular thing. A particular thing. It may not be worldly items, a big car, a big house, lot of money, lot of name and fame. It may not be that. But it may be that a particular environment where I want to live. I may want a peaceful environment to do meditation. There are some houses, people say that I'm not able to, I'm just remembering one example. A boy, young boy, he took Diksha from Swamiji. His economic condition is not very poor, not very good. At least at that time it was. They lived in one small house, a small room, 4-5 members. So Swamiji said, every day you must sit and do meditation. At least twice a day. Sit on your asana and do meditation. Choose a corner where there is no disturbance. He said, Swamiji, we have got only one room and always there are people around. So I am thinking how to meditate and where to meditate. He went back. He was not from Kerala. He went back. And after a few days he wrote, Swamiji, you had given me the adesha that I should sit in meditation. And I was thinking what to do. I told you also. You had said, think and find out a way. So what he started doing, he had written, he used to get up very early in the morning. There is a temple nearby. So he used to go there and sit and quietly meditate. But there are people who will say that this problem is there, that problem is there, that is why I am not able to spend time. There is a story in Yoga Vasishta, I don't remember the story very well, but the long and short of it is that one person wanted to meditate and he wanted a quiet place. Now the quiet place, wherever he goes, he went to the forest even. Some place he felt that it is quite quiet. He found some difficulty there. So he went to another place. There he found some difficulty. Then he thought that he will make some kind of a small wooden house over the branches of a tree. He made that also. There he found another difficulty. So his whole time was making a perfect place for meditation instead of meditating. So the primary place, primary want became a preference that this should be the environment or a place where I can live peacefully or meditate peacefully, instead of just going into oneself. Tagore's one line of a song is, Bohu janotar majhe apurbo eka. In the midst of a big crowd, you feel you are alone inside you. It can be done. So, it is a self-quoted bondage. Baba had written that Swarga, Baba had written to me, Swarga and Naraka, heaven and hell, is in one's mind. One chooses Swarga or Naraka oneself. You decide whether you would like to live in Swarga, heaven, or in Naraka, hell. Your mind can create Swarga, heaven, your mind can create hell. I would like you to remain in heaven in your mind. So, these lines, the lines told by masters, realized masters, they are such a treasure. Really, if you indulge in such thoughts, unnecessary, will be in hell only. And if you become indifferent to it, we don't cling to these thoughts which are giving us suffering, we will remain in heaven. In Dakshin Khanda, one lady in Purnashram. She was coming for the satsang. So seeing her, I always felt that she is very unhappy. There was no luster in the face, but she used to come regularly, morning and evening. So I asked her one day when she came to do pranam, I asked her, I always feel that your mind is not happy. What is the matter? She started crying and told me that her husband has passed away. Her husband was working in Kolkata, but they made a house in the village, thinking that when the husband retires, they will come and stay in the village house. Nice house. They have 2 sons, both are in Kolkata. Now, the husband has passed away. She has come and she is staying in the village house. Even when the husband was alive, the 2 sons, they were not keeping contact with them. Both got married and they lived their own life. They were not even inquiring about the parents. As long as the husband was there, it was still bearable. Now that she has become alone, she finds it difficult that the sons do not even inquire how she is. She said that we are staying with my relatives around me, and they take very good care of me. But that my own sons are never inquiring, never calling, never coming to see me. It gives me a lot of pain. And she was shedding a lot of tears. So I said, are they happy in their own family, in their own life? Yes, they are very happy. Their families are good, their wives are okay, they have children. I said, then why do you have to think so much? They are happy. As a mother, you must be wishing well always, giving them blessings. So let that be. And you have people to look after you. Then why should you think so much about only this and get afflicted? So I said this and consoled her. And very strangely, the next time she came, next day, her face was so bright. And I asked her, what happened? You look so nice today. She said, I thought and thought about what you said. And it is true. Why should I think so much? So it is a mind which can remain in heaven. It is the same mind which can remain in hell. And that is what Baba had told so many years back. I want to live you in heaven. What is meant by attachment? It is self-quoted bondage. You get married. The association of the partner should be a source of joy, harmony, and additional strength for you. If it proves to be otherwise, if it becomes a source of agitation, anxiety, and fear, if it constricts and subdues your personality instead of expanding it, then it is because of attachment. Now, if you read this, definitely one will feel that if the partner is not what one should be, and there is a lot of friction, yes, the life becomes really difficult, very difficult. Especially if children are there. The life is very difficult. But for a spiritual seeker, one must feel this point to be important, that if this whole event or the situation subdues your personality instead of expanding it, then it is because of attachment. What is the attachment? Attachment to the expectation that the partner will be like this, that the environment of the house should be like this. If you can outlive it, outlive this expectation, then the mind will expand. Still, it may be that you are not able to live with a partner. Many times it happens that you cannot. But the whole event should not subdue you. The whole event should show you very, very clearly like a torch that whatever has happened, has happened. The basic feeling that I am attached to some preferences. What is the preferences? A particular way of life, particular association. So this attachment, if it is there in some situation, even in a small measure, that attachment you will find that afflicts you even in other areas. I don't know whether I am able to explain to you properly. Any kind of unwanted trait, undesirable trait, this attachment is an undesirable trait. We should be very, very carefully thinking that what are my preferences, why I am having preferences and prejudices. It may be in the office. Somebody has given an example in a family, a husband and wife situation. It may be in the office with a boss. It may be that a husband and wife, they are okay. They got a child, very happy. The child grew up, and the child is not behaving in the manner in which he should behave. That also happens. That is also a situation. Where is the affliction? Why the affliction is coming? Why the mind is in hell? Because of the expectation that the son should not be like this. The son has become like this. So on account of the son, or account of anybody, any relationship, any episode, we should not let our mind get subdued and weak. We should be able to outlive and get enriched. Swamiji tells about somebody, Swamiji's disciple, whose son was not obedient, always used to give trouble to the parents. And the father one day told Swamiji that, Swamiji, I have decided, I have had lot of affliction because of my son. And I have now told myself that on the account of my son, I will not allow my mind to become affected. We become affected because we are attached. This attachment is the main thing in a spiritual life. People who take to spirituality also, they become attached to spirituality. Attachment to having a very secluded life, attachment to reading scriptures, attachment to only mixing with like-minded people, attachment to remain self-centered, not looking into anything else. All these are attachments. Okay? So I will continue after this. Sampurnam jagadev nandanavaram sarvepi kalpadrumaha gangam vari samasta vari nivaha punyas samasta kriyaha Vāca prakrita samskrita shruti shiro Varanasi medini sarvavasthitirasya vastu vishaya drishte parabrahmani sarvavasthitirasya vastu vishaya दृष्टि परब्रह्मणि। जय गुरु, जय गुरु, जय गुरु।